Okay, just double checking everything's running correctly. Okay, I should be live, but I cannot see the comments now. I don't know why. Hmm. Let me check something. Let me just make sure. Okay, I can see it this way at least. So, okay, I'm live. So, welcome everybody to the stream. My name is Jose. I'm a Golden in Kendo, and now I'm getting double sound. 1 second. Okay, everything should be fine now. So it's been a while since I stream, as you can tell. I'm trying to get used to again to some of the things that I need to operate here while I do the streaming. The purpose of the streaming is obviously answering your question, talking about Kendo, showing some good Kendo, whether it is for testing, for competitions, and practice overall. And mainly the purpose is to try to help us learn something and improve our Kendo. Your questions are very welcome here. Um, for the people that still following around, and I would like to give a little bit of an update with some things. So I just want to make sure that once people start rolling into the stream, I can start talking about this stuff, and also I can give me some time to get used to what's happening here. Okay, because I don't know why I cannot see now the comments on the mainstream, but at least I can see them here. Um, for those of you that okay, hold on. Let me see if I do this. Okay, maybe I can do it like this. Okay, so let's see if I can do this. If you're new here, we have a Discord server. The link is on the comment box. You can join it if you want to get to meet more Kendo people. If you want to message and stuff like that, that's a great way to do it. Especially when you do the private messages, I get to see them more often. But that's a complete free server that you can join and hopefully get to meet people around the world that do Kendo. And if you want to practice somewhere, I think it's a great way to start making contacts. Um, I am currently living in Japan. I've been here for about 2 years now, and I'm preparing for my Rokudan test this year. So I'm very excited. I, I feel like I still have a lot of things to practice, to learn, to fix. So I kind of want to start sharing my journey. Right after this stream, I do a members only stream that you can also join, and in that one I share a little bit more of my kind of like my day-to-day practices here, some of the specific advices that I've gotten for my test and for the things that I'm trying to also improve on. And you're welcome to join that as well. So it will be right after this stream for members of the stream. Uh, okay, today what I decided to do is I'm going to have videos on Shiai Ippon. So I found this Ippon compilation, which I love the Ippon compilations, especially from Let's Kendo. And I'll put the link in the chat box as well if you would like to go see that at some point. Okay, and that way if you want to enjoy the video on your own time, you want to watch the whole thing, because most likely we're not going to have time to go through the whole thing today. That will be a good way to do that. Pokemon, thank you for saying hello. I am not sure if my comments are delayed because I'm having to see things through two screens. But if you find any problems, any errors with the stream, please let me know so that way I can fix it. Especially the sound, that will be a big help. Okay, so what I wanted to do with this video today is kind of bring back the things that we're gonna see from Shiai on how to kind of like work on them on our own practice to build it up, and not only that, is also how that can build up to our testing, our preparation for testing. A lot of times people like to separate between the way that you do kendo for Shiai and the way you do kendo for testing and the way you do kendo for your regular practice. There are key points that are different, but conceptually, I feel like the kendo done should be one. Okay, so we're gonna kind of talk a little bit about that today. Some of the differences on each element, each section of your type of keiko. So yeah, let's get on with it. Okay, perfect, Pokemon. Thank you very much for sharing that. That's great. That's great to hear. Um, Great Ippon, I think, in the sense that Hikiwasa, it's very much is very very useful, especially for tournament. This is one of the waza that when people say they're preparing for testing, a lot of times people say that stay away from specific techniques, right? Some people say stay away from like Ojiwasa depending on your rank, or like Do depending on your rank. I don't think it's so black and white that you have to say, okay, don't do this. The thing with Hikiwasa that I say is not good to push for it or to do it often in testing is because a lot of times you cannot show Seme, you cannot show that preparation. It's more like the opponent made a mistake. The opponent had like a lapse of wasn't paying attention for a quarter of a second, got distracted. It's a little bit tricky to set it up, and that's why I feel that Hikiwasa is normally not so good for testing, but for Shiai, it's a really good technique to have in your repertoire. And for me, I found, so I am not the best at Hikiwasa, and I had to do a lot of focused practice for Hikiwasa to kind of get a few concepts down. But the one that I feel that people struggle the most, and the one that is going to be the most useful, I think, if you want to improve your Hikiwasa, is your position, your Kamae, right before you do the Hikiwasa. So for example, here, one second here. So from here, if you can see the person that's about to do Hikiwasa on the left, the right, the white Kenshi, he is standing straight and is not leaning into the opponent. A lot of times people tend to kind of just lean into the opponent, and that kind of throws your balance off. You want to try to keep your balance on your feet, and if you push, especially like he's going to do it right now, it's not leaning over with the body, it's more just your arms. So that way your position, your body can stay proper, correct, and you can move, because it takes longer. If you're leaning in, it takes longer and more effort to move. So if you watch after he pushes, when he pushes, his body is in motion, right? And he's able to switch into that technique and then go back um, with that Hikido. It's very important to have good balance and the ability to move forward and backwards and not just lean in. When you start leaning in, your body kind of wants to go forward. And here, of course, he does a sharp push, but it's not like he's leaning into it and changing the shift of his weight. Nice, Kote. Sometimes when we're doing kotes like this, and this goes, I think, for testing, for your basic practice, is that when you're doing a kote, especially with little space, little distance from your opponent, and you want to create more impact, a lot of times we compensate by using the arms a lot. But if you notice here, of course he's using the arms to move the shinai, right? But the body, of the Kenshi and white, it's on motion. If you watch, the right foot is off the ground, and when he's coming into it, he he's pretty much in the air. The back foot is already it's off the floor as well, and he's on the air, and he's getting power not only from the arms but also from the body. So I always say, and something that I being corrected a lot at the dojo is that once, as you see here, he's setting up the motion, right? He's setting up the shinai to hit. But when he engages the left arm to go into the swing, he's at the same time pushing with the back leg, so his body again, it's moving forward. If you watch here, his body is moving forwards off the ground before he's actually coming down with the shinai. That helps get more momentum, more speed, and better impact than if you just do it with your arms. Now, word of advice, of course, he's adjusting to the distance. He ended up being in a close distance not only because he closed in, but also the opponent came closer. So the shinai, it's a little bit, let me just change the camera real quick. The shinai is coming in closer to his body, but a lot of times people hit down this way. He's more like pulling towards the body to bring the tip down rather than pushing down. That's something you want to keep in mind. Of course, basic kote should be going away from your body, right? But the left hand has to pull to bring the tip down. And the way he does it, adapting, of course, you can do it. Same thing as like with do, right? You can bring it towards your body. What you don't want to do is push down because that takes away from the sharpness of your impact. Hope that makes sense. Can be a little confusing, so please let me know in the comments what you think about that. Okay. Wow. So this is a good example of a great tsuki, I think. A lot of times when people do tsuki, they tense up their upper body as coming in closer. But if you watch here, the kenshi on the right, it's pushing with the back foot, but keeping the kamae. And is he going forward? He's extending as if he's going to go for men, right? And comes in for that tsuki with the body. Again, a lot of times people emphasizes so much on the upper body and leaning into it and going in forward like that. But in reality, that extension, that extension is obviously finishing the cut, right? Finishing the thrust. You don't want to kind of lead with that. You want to lead with your body. And that's one of the biggest points or biggest elements that become more and more important as you move up in rank. Right now, especially for me preparing for my Rokudan, that's one of the biggest points that I feel like it gets drilled often for me is coming in and attacking with the body and the hands kind of just follow through. It's just what's it called? It's like the cherry in the top. The motion and the speed comes from the body, then the arms being relaxed is just so easy to come in forward and to hit. Now, one of the things that I feel that I'm also improving more and more and more is in the aspect that once I'm coming in relaxed and just allowing the sword to just kind of fall in, if I'm relaxed, I can connect the energy from my body and the hit ends up being much sharper. And looking at it from the side, I'll find another example once when somebody hits a nice man. But when you see somebody hitting a nice man that is with good posture and the hands came relaxed and out, it almost looks like they're holding their body with the shinai rather than just pushing and forcing the shinai down. It's like they're holding their weight with their shinai. And I think it's just such a good way for me to see it. Like it's a good image to have because once you get that hit, once you have that type of feeling, your hits becomes much sharper, and they don't hurt when you hit, but you get a solid hit. So let's see if I can get that shown a little bit. Also, by the way, great opportunity to use Tsuki is when the opponent is kind of going back. So if you see here, the person in white is coming in, going back, coming in, going back. So instead of just coming in randomly for a technique, the person on the right, the tension on the right, he starts closing the distance with the body. If you watch, you see, like, starts closing the distance with the body. So at this point, he could have just taken another step to close the distance, or he could have just gone for attack, right? But he's still kind of gauging that situation. And at some point, he decides, okay, this is the time to go. He can just transition into just following through with a technique rather than just randomly coming in. He's kind of using that little momentum where he's closing the distance as a way to understand the opponent and try to figure out what's happening. Then when he decides, he can just engage. So it's different than just blindly coming in, or what the opponent or white was doing of stepping in, coming back, stepping in, coming back. See, white steps in, comes out. So in a way, by doing this is something you might want to be mindful for Shiai and avoid doing this during testing, right? When you start doing this forward and back, not only you're telling your opponent the rhythm, but also you're communicating that you're not really trying to go forward, okay? What that does is kind of helps the opponent's confidence to come up instead of you being a threat. It's kind of like you understand, okay, he's not really trying to come in, he's trying to bait me in, right? So the opponent adapted to that situation and was able to take a new point. Yes. Oh, nice point. I feel in this one, the screen is a little bit off center, so let me just move this a little bit so you guys can see it better. There you go. Hopefully that's good better. Okay, so from here, one of the biggest issues that you have against Yodan players is that you have to be aggressive against them, but at the same time, you have to have control. So you have to make them feel pressure. And here, again, white, it's in a position where his legs are a little bit wide, but at the same time he's close, so that's not that bad, right? But it's a little bit wide and it's not really feeling like he's coming in. The opponent kind of just took the opportunity, and most likely it took an opportunity as defense. Like he went forward as a way of defending himself, right? As a way of like keeping the opponent away from him. And just because the opponent wasn't really in that mood of coming in, or like that what's it called? He didn't have that intention forward. Allowed him to take that one. Very clean, very nice. Again, you want to keep in mind that during your Tsubaseriai, you want to keep the attention, and you want to keep that tension up. In a way, the Kenshin White, he was being very chill, keeping everything kind of like smooth. He wasn't pushing, he wasn't leaning, and keeping his posture. Both of them are doing a really good job at keeping their posture. I feel like any of them could attack. I just feel like White did that so smoothly. And very, very good. Yeah, very, very good way to transition into the Hikimai. Wow, great, great, great way to execute Yakudo. Here, it clearly looked like he was gonna go for man, and when his opponent went out, raised the hands, went for that Yakudo. That was risky. And this one, I guess, tried to do the same, didn't quite get it, and White had the opportunity because he was ready for that. Yeah, Yakudo is tricky. Yakudo is tricky, especially when you miss it and with the follow through, because one of the main points is that you want to have um, a good follow through. You also want to be safe, right? So a lot of people kind of come closer to close the distance and not be able to get hit. But if the opponent is really good at managing their distance and moving their body, it's going to be really hard if you go forward. Um, One of my best, um, I guess, advice that I can say about that, you don't want to just blindly say, I'm going to go for Gyakudo and then I'm done, right? You want to try to go Gyakudo, and if there's anything else that you can do to keep going forward, to keep attacking, you want to take advantage of that. In this case, the person kind of went in forward and just continue his kind of was stuck a little bit on that follow through and allow the opponent to hit him again, to hit him on the way out. You want to also, as you close the distance, when you do Gyakudo, there's something that you cannot really do Gyakudo from back here, right? I mean, you could, but it's a little bit harder because you have to do a big reach. You end up having to kind of go into a very far lunge, and it takes a lot of time to bring that back leg forward if you're gonna keep going forward. If you're gonna go backward, it's still like the reach is very hard because you gotta go far, then extend down for that Gyakudo. And if you need to come backwards, you still have to push a lot to come out again. So one of the I guess setups, especially that I like to do, again, is coming in closer, a little bit, not necessarily chikamae. You want to give the pressure, and before getting to chikamae, you want to start working on getting the opponent's sword out of the way. And some people, the way that they practice when they do their basics is kind of like doing like um, harai man, or kind of like pressing down the shinai to come in for men, but then obviously transition into that door. You want to kind of mm, get that opening by doing something to trend the man. A lot of times, just trying to control the opponent's shinai works enough, but and very important to keep in mind this: you don't want to do it too fast because then the opponent might not register, might not think about that as a threat. And sometimes once you do that, that man is completely open as well. So maybe that ends up being the safer choice to go for. Having that that awareness, I think, is very important. So when you're practicing in your Kihon for Gyakudo, trying to find different ways to set up to it is very important. Sometimes people even do kind of like go underneath the shinai, they do a harai to come up, and when the person covers up here, they go on for the Gyakudo. Having different setups, I think, is important, and understanding the difference between going in from one side, trying to go from the top and stuff. But also the distance is very important. What's the right distance for you to hit that Gyakudo is going to be, I think, essential for that as well. When you're doing that during Kihon, practice that during Kihon. But also, once you're doing it in your Jigeiko, you don't want to kind of just focus in that is only what I'm going to do, right? You want to try to figure out what's the best option for you to do at any given moment. Gyakudo, for me specifically, works a lot against people that are trying to bait you, number one. They are being reactive, they're just waiting for you to hit. um, People going back a lot is also a very good one. If they're going back a lot, something you want to keep in mind is that you don't want to chase them after hitting that Gyakudo. It maybe is better to hit and come out. And also another what's it called? Another type of person that Gyakudo works as well. It's somebody kind of just trying to thread the men a lot, right? Like not really committing, trying to just to make a thread and trying to get you to move. Gyakudo, it's also could be a good option. I think it's a great tool to have in your repertoire. If you have the ability to practice Gyakudo and to kind of improve it and use it, it's a great tool to have, especially for those type of moments. Because sometimes, even if you don't get it, it kind of changes the way the opponent might think about how to approach you. And then that can give you the opening that you need, especially for Shiai. Okay, I hope that makes sense. Okay. Great. Okay. First of all, this is something that you want to keep, especially for Shiai, but for Shinsa it's also very important. A lot of times, especially in Shinsa, when people go through, they hit, they turn around, and they kind of like um, take their sweet time to come back into Kamae to then start setting up to the next technique. I think here it's a good show of good sanshin and also that ability to kind of get ready immediately after a technique. So what happens here? Wide attacks is not a point they go through, and then immediately when they're turning around, they're coming in ready for an exchange. And there was a moment where like, okay, they didn't attack, but immediately when he saw the opening, he went again for another technique. So that tension, that communication never got cut off. And that's something that's showing for your Shinsa, I think is very important. A lot of times, especially for testing, people go through, they go far out, and they come back kind of in a relaxed way. You want to avoid that as well. As you go through, when you turn around, it should feel for your opponent that you're ready to go. And you approach them with Kamae, so then you can start your exchange as quickly as possible. Huey, thank you very much for passing by and saying hello. Appreciate it. Hope you're being well. Really good point to keep in mind for your testing. What's that? Wait, hold on. Let me see something. Let me just make sure that you could see that. Maybe you couldn't see that here so much. Sorry, guys. Let me play this again so you can see it properly. Right, that connection was never broken. There's something very important to keep in mind. Guys, let me know what do you think. Is it good for me to keep doing the streams here in this vertical format, or should I go back to the horizontal format? Because sometimes I feel that things go out of frame and that can be annoying, but I feel sometimes maybe watching them like this could be a little bit more comfortable, more accessible. I will really appreciate your feedback. That will be great. Again, that continuity, one good thing that you can do for your kendo at any level is practicing continuous techniques. So kakarigeko, for example, is a great drill. And you want to do your kakarigeko. There's different ways of doing kakarigeko, right? You want to do it. One way that you want to do it, of course, it's do as many times as you can, and get exhausted. Use your body and train yourself. But another point to keep in mind, you want to try to do also kakarigeko where every time you hit, it's a point, it's an ippon. So you hit with the proper posture, with the proper part of the shinai and the proper target, all of these things, and having that ability to have continuous techniques, it's very important. I'm very lucky. I practice. So if you're practicing Jigeko and you're constantly in the habit of after one attack, you relax, you might be training yourself incorrectly. You want to try to, even if you miss, or even if you got your point, you want to be ready for another technique. And sometimes, as I'm saying, I'm very lucky because a lot of times the people that I train with, they have that mentality, and sometimes maybe I hit them and I end up in a position where like, okay, I hit, so I finished, but then they hit me like 2 or 3 times from the same spot, and it kind of makes me realize like, okay, yeah, I hit, but I'm not done. You have to come back out in your proper distance, and you wanna always be mindful and paying attention. That being said, a lot of times when I have a partner like this, but then I don't do it back to them, they also stop doing it, kind of maybe because they think that, oh, I'm being nice, or they're gonna be nice or something. I don't know, but that's something that I noticed. So again, you want to not be rude, but you want to show that presence. You want to show that intention against your opponent. With a lot of the people that I practice with, if I when I see them during Jigeiko, I would say, "Oh my God, like, is he angry at me? What's going on? What's happening?" But then, of course, the attitude changes completely after it's done. So that feeling, you want to learn to have it and transmit it to your opponent. It's not about being rude. It's not about being arrogant. It's about just kind of give your opponent a real fight, real challenge, and challenge each other. Hope that makes sense. That's something. Uh, that's something that you want to keep in mind and uh, work on for yourself. Uh, Wolfscan, thank you for passing by, saying hello. Yeah, you're not sure what the answer was. You're talking about the format, like vertical or horizontal. Yeah, I'm struggling with that one. I feel like it could be more comfortable, especially for people watching on the phone like this. But I have to be really paying attention that things don't go out of frame. That's something I feel like very important. So if I miss on that one, guys, just please let me know. Um, and again, see, one attack, one attack, one attack, one attack, until one gets the hit. Perfect exchange, I think, and this is something that I really appreciate when I have a partner that we can challenge each other this way. Talking about tests, talking about all this, and something that I feel that it's an element that when you show on the test, it can be easily transferable into your Shiai, is that once you throw an attack, if you miss, you should look like you actually got it, right? And if you watch here, and by the way, when I say that you should look like you actually got it, you should also have, once you get a good hit, you don't want to lose your posture, you lose your composure, you don't want to have extra tension. And here you can see how that works in an effective way. So here, the person on the left went for an attack, kind of had an awkward position, but immediately came back into having good posture, right? Into like being straight. The Shinai is all over the place, but he's straight. He's ready. Person on the right, he attacks, right? He goes for a technique and doesn't lose his posture. Still kind of keeping his posture, especially where his feet. The other person, same thing. Attack, again, on posture. Attack, good posture. And because the person on the left had the good posture there, he was able to transition into Hikido. So, yeah, great exchange there. So most YouTubers are landscape. This is more like a vertical font. You don't have the answer. It works for the content uh, that I'm reacting to. Okay, yeah, like my main issue is, sometimes people move a lot in the camera, so when they go out, I just want to make sure that, and I want to make sure also it's big enough to see. For me right now on the monitor that I'm using, it's kind of small to see details, but I know a phone will be much bigger. So That's something that I feel I have a sensei that does Yodan as well, and that happens to me quite often. Um, and is getting hit a man just like that, right? Like it just doesn't even register until it's too late. Um, and the main reason for that, I figure with my sensei, and I feel like this is the same case here. Again, the motion starting from the feet. Watch, watch how the Yodan player is coming in. Wait 1 second. If you watch here, I don't know if you can see this detail. Maybe let me try to make it a little bit bigger and focus on that point right there. But if you watch here, guys, this is something that right now, uh, the senseis that I practice with, they all say this to me. They all say it to each other. The senseis, like, they all correct themselves on this point. And I feel this is something that can make a big difference. If you see here, the 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 Kenshi on the left, the Yodan player, his weight at this moment here, it's mostly, if not all of it, on his right leg, in his back leg. Okay, so here, right here, I don't know if you can see that there's separation between the floor and the foot. At that point, the weight is fully on the back leg, but the back leg is pushing to move forward. So he resets the weight, but for that brief moment, he moved the whole body. He moved the right leg, the forward leg forward, but keeping the weight on the back, ready to explode if he needed to. Okay? He resets himself up to kind of change the timing for the Tame and to still gauge the opponent. But when he decides to go forward for an attack, he's not just exploding sharply, right? And this is kind of the image that I feel that I had for a long time, that if I want to be fast, I need to explode. But the truth is that you don't. You start slowly, you start ramping up into your technique. And then at some point, right when you're committed, that's when you throw everything in there. And that's the point of the Fumikiri. And by the way, a quick point with that, the Fumikiri, that moment when you push off with the back leg, that's same moment when he's also engaging the arms, right? So if you notice right at this point when he's pushing in with the back leg to start stretching it, right, to like lunge forward, that's also when he's triggering the arm. And at that point, he throws everything together. So there's an explosion, but it's a brief explosion, and for a short time, for a short part of the movement, right? Now, I was mentioning before that when you have um, a nice man, a nice attack with a good motion, with good use of your arm, it almost looks like he's holding his weight with the shinai, right? So here, if you notice, the weight of the Yodan player is going in forwards, kind of going down, and the shinai, is bending in a way that it looks again like he's being held this way, right? Like he's bending this way. Um, this is just such a like good marker on a good hit, because it's not too deep, it's the right distance, and again, all the weight of his body is coming in from that motion that he triggered. Hope that makes sense. I feel like I'm rambling now. Uh, but instead, this is not hitting down. This is extending, and the body is passing. It's also transferring that energy into the opponent, into the target. Nice Kaishido. And a lot of times I hear people saying that Kaishido or Do is not a good technique to have for testing, by the way. I disagree on that, especially when you do it this way. The Kenshin on the left, he's not waiting for the opponent. He's closing the distance, and as he closes the distance when the opponent attack, he's also executing the Kaeshido. He's not just standing there waiting for the sword to come to then move. His body is moving again. If you watch, it's gonna be a little bit hard to see because the shimpan is in front of him, but his arms are forward while his body is moving forward. And when his foot is in the air, that's when he's engaging the arms. And at the moment of Fumikiri is when he engages into the cut. So this is different than if you're just standing there waiting for the sword to come and attacking. So there's a concept that here the dojo gets thrown out a lot, and in Japanese, jibun kara, so from yourself, right? So meaning that you you want to be the one causing the reaction, causing the interaction. So when you have this mentality that you are the one approaching and your opponent is moving because of you, is different than you're waiting and reacting for whatever the opponent, or you're waiting and reacting to whatever the opponent does. And the reason why that's so important is because when you are the one initiating, it allows you to anticipate rather than react. And that's going to give you a slight advantage when it comes on timing. Because if you're the one giving that pressure and you're committing into going forward, the opponent will always react. And between the reaction and not knowing where you're going, not knowing what you're doing, you are the one that starts stacking up advantages. And this concept becomes more and more important the higher rank you go. And it becomes more and more relevant when you're trying to take control of your opponent rather than just hoping or expecting to get the reaction you want for the technique you already prepared for. And I don't know if that makes sense, but it's something that's very important. And this is something that is very clear to see at this point right here. If you watch, oh, sorry, 1 second. If you watch the way that he performs this Kaishido, he closes the distance, he comes in for a technique, and when the opponent decides to commit for a man, he executes the Kaishido. It's not that he's just standing in one place, and when the opponent comes, he moves. He's already closing the distance, so he has a little bit of that advantage when it comes to knowing when the opponent might come in, and also having an idea of where the opponent might go to. Hope that makes any sense. Let me know what you think, guys, in the comments. Okay. What is my opinion on hitting? Wait, what's my opinion about dropping or just grab the shinai with one hand after hit the do? So, I think this is not black and white. I think it's completely okay. When you mean dropping, I'm guessing like throwing down to the floor. That, okay, that does look bad. That doesn't, that's not okay. But let me just use this as an example real quick. So here, for example, he's using one hand after the strike. This is 100% okay. This is 100% right. And this is, as a matter of fact, in one of the dojos that I go to, I'm I'm told to do this, but with a caveat, right? Like there's one specific thing. This is something that you would do the way I'm explain this. This is something I say like this because I don't want it to be black and white, right? But the most cases when you're gonna do this and see this happening is when you do a kaeshi do or a do that the opponent is very close to you. Okay, when you hit regular do, for example, for kihon, you hit the do away, right? When the opponent is coming in to you, you do have to do a couple of things to adapt to that. One of those things is not necessarily going forward after you hit. It's more that you're turning out and coming out to the side. And for that reason, because the opponent is coming close, you might get stuck having both hands here, and you might not have a good space to do it. So hitting down and then letting go, that's okay. Now, doing like the whole thing, like you hit with one hand, that's not okay. You have to hit with both hands, right? But after hitting the do, if you let go, that's okay. Um, does that make sense? But at the same time, I also see people that they naturally do that for all the does they do, and that can also be frowned upon. It could also be taking ippons away. It can also make it where like judges might not think it's an ippon, because depending on the distance, depending on what's happening, it might get a different effect. For example, when the opponent is coming in, when you're hitting, of course, it's going to be a difference on if the opponent is moving, where there's going to be a difference between the opponent moving and the opponent not moving, right? When it's coming closer, it might look like there's more energy. You might have more energy as you do that. So that's why I also think that maybe one hand after the hit when the person's coming closer might also be okay too, and still look good and look strong, and get good impact. But again, um, it also has to be taken with each situation. Throwing the Shiai down, I don't think that that one is okay, because again, it might be that the person loses balance or they don't have good control of Shiai. That also you want to stay away from. Does that make sense? Does that answer that question? Let me know. Okay, let's watch one more report. I have a couple of things I want to say. Man, I wish I could have seen that one too on the side. Um, Very good interaction, I think, from both of them. So if you watch here, I feel that they both did a really good job at giving pressure, right? Person on the right, of course, we can see it more clearly that he's coming in, but the person on red, it's also giving pressure by slightly moving his foot back forward. And this is something that you might want to keep in mind, guys, especially as you start moving on. Um, when we're doing Kihon before we attack, we normally do one step and then we attack. But when you're doing Jigeiko or Shiai or Shinsa, that way kind of doesn't work most of the time, especially against people that are higher level, right? Because once you take that one step, if the person knows you're coming, then they can reply with pressure. Now, what ends up happening, if you want to do small steps coming in, but once you start getting to this distance, you want to start playing with moving only your forward leg, right? And it's not that you want to give a full step. You want to start kind of relaxing the weight from the forward leg, so that way you can start giving the pressure and be ready to go forward instead of moving always the back leg. And a lot of times, something that you would see is that mm, someone moving the right leg forward, the opponent kind of goes back, and instead of doing a full step after that, just the back leg adjusts so you can start resetting to use the forward leg. That's something that um, I've been having a lot of conversation with some of my senseis, that we talk about ways of approaching different, having a big repertoire of way of moving and approaching and dealing with distance issues. I want to make a video about that, but I just haven't. I'm going to make a quick little announcement about that stuff. I don't want to get off track, so in a second. But having a repertoire of way of using your feet to manage the distance, to create pressure, and to always be ready is very important. So here, specifically, the person on red, the guy, the one that does the Kaeshido, you can barely see it because of the angle, but the person is going forward slightly, keeping the back foot, I call it anchor, right? And when he has the right moment, he engages into the technique. Because the person came in closer, he had to adapt, moving the back foot backwards instead, right? So he pretty much does the Kayashido on the spot. He doesn't move forward. And again, because of this, he lets go of the hand for after the hit, but goes out, I guess, as I said, You also want to learn for Kashido the different ways to go through depending on the distance. And in here, he doesn't go through out forward, he goes through out sideways. And very important skill to have, um, to go out. Doesn't look the prettiest, but he got the ippon, and that's one of the biggest, I think, differences between Shinsa and Shiai. Shiai, you are more free to do whatever you need to in order to get an ippon, and Shinsa is more about showing the elements of kendo that are required for you, and one of them, of course, is going to be proper technique and execution of proper technique. So a lot of times we compromise in Shiai our body a lot just in order to make that contact. But for Shinsa and for Jigeko, you want to make sure that you are polishing your kendo, because if you have that ability, then compromising your technique a little bit in Shiai, it comes out easier and you have more chances to recovering after you miss. Okay, I hope that makes sense. That's something that I feel like is very important, and I've been working on that lately a lot. Um, Richie, you say, by the way, hi again. Well, hi, thank you very much for passing by. I really appreciate it. It makes total sense. Okay, cool. Um, a lot of times we think about kendo in black and white things, but to be honest, uh, even in my dojo, the one of the dojos that I practice in, I am the lowest rank, right? And I'm the youngest, I'm the lowest rank, and this dojo, they really have a lot of emphasis on um, testing. But funny enough, they're very strong, they're very active, and they have really good. I have really good interactions there. Um, so I lost my train of thought. My bad. Uh, in this dojo, one thing that I really appreciate with is that people are always eager to attack. It's not They're not just waiting for you to make a mistake. They're showing you these elements on making the other person make a mistake, controlling the opponent, and I always find that amazing. I have a really good time there. And another thing, in this dojo specifically, I feel everyone has a really good kendo there, but mostly what they focus on when they're practicing, is men. A lot of the basis of everything they do is setting up for men, pressuring for men, and attacking for men. But with that, they can build up a big repertoire. They don't get overwhelmed with, like, all different techniques that you can do in order to get the sword out of the way, like harai, or makiwasa, or any specific kind of like, um, yeah, they keep it simple. I guess that would be the best way to say it. But I wanted to share something with you guys. I've been living in Japan here coming up to 3 years already. Sometimes I get questions about, you know, how is life here in Japan, and some of the things that I've done to be here and stuff. I don't know if that's something that you guys will find interesting for me to start posting videos about it, or just to make streams about that. If that's the case, I'll appreciate your feedback on that. Um, One of the biggest issues that I have here when it comes to making videos is that at the dojos, the practices, I cannot record them, right? So I go to this dojo, for example, that I'm mentioning in is a police station, and they're very strict on the recording, especially when sharing the recording. So that kind of holds me back a lot on sharing some of the things that I would like to make more videos about. So I guess I'm always a little bit self-conscious on how can I present the videos in a way that I can not only just talk but also show. Um, and that's something that I guess I've been not as an excuse to not post videos, but it's kind of something I've been kind of like giving it some thought. What can I do in order to do that better? And because again, people have asked about coming here, about learning Japanese and like all stuff. I don't want to be like a cliche, uh what's it called, YouTube channel with like, oh, let's learn Japanese, whatever, like that. That's not really the point of here. But having Japanese and practicing Japanese and having a Japanese resource for me has been a very important tool for Kendo. Um, Japanese as a language is a language that is very heavy connected to the culture and the way of doing things at the dojo in Kendo are also pretty much related to the culture itself, right? So having the understanding of the cultural background of the language has been a great tool as well to have better interactions at the dojo because there's so many unwritten rules to follow at the dojo. So having that is something that has helped me a lot. So again, I'm open to your suggestions. Also, of course, I've been a little bit struggle with time because of family stuff, I'm work stuff. I recently started a company where I help expat or people from US living abroad with tax advisory and also for people from abroad going into the US to make sure that everything people don't get double tax and stuff like that. So if you guys want some pointers on that, on some advice on that, or if you need some help with that, feel free to reach out. But the main thing is I want to make sure that I put together things that are valuable for you guys and we can keep this going alive to as a resource because I know that there's not many channels out there and many resources outside of Japan. So I would like to share that as much as possible. By the way, Ariga Sensei, I know he started doing YouTube and stuff like that. I've seen some of his videos. I think they're great. I learned a lot from Ariga Sensei. So if you can pass by and give him some follows and some care, that would be amazing. He's a great person. I enjoy him as a person very much. Let me catch up with some of these comments. You were thinking about the thing I talk about a slow start during the initial movement to attack and then be explosive the moment of the strike. What did you do if the moment you make that decision to move forward, you notice the opponent is already attacking? So, well, that's the thing. You have to start the motion with the assumption that the opponent will attack. And if the opponent is already attacking, the simplest way of me putting Kendo is that Seme is just a big game of chicken, right? One person gets pressure, and if this other person reacts, then this is the time for this person to attack. And if this person attacks and this person gets the pressure back and this person attacks, then this guy lost the game of chicken. But at the same time, you cannot wait, right? You cannot wait uh, to see, oh, is the person coming or not. It's a skill that you start developing with with practice. And once you start putting that pressure, understanding how to transition into an attack is very important. And the biggest tip I can give you for that is being able to hit at a short distance. Because I know, especially, okay, it's funny because from early on, when I was taught Kendo, I was always pushed to attack from far. This was kind of like the go-to thing. Everyone was, yeah, you have to attack from far, attack from far. But every time that I've come and trained with people that I admire here in Japan, they always push to be able to, not to attack from close, but to be able to attack from close. Why? Because once you give that pressure, the opponent is going to attack. And if your go-to thing is to go forward, you're always going to attack far, you're always going to be late, and you're not going to have power on your strikes when you get them at a short distance. But if you have the ability to do a sharp, good attack at a short distance, it doesn't matter if the person is attacking because you already gave the pressure, you should be ready and you should transition into hitting an attack, even if it's in the same spot, and you should be good. I hope that answers your question. Uh, you said just hold Chudan and go for Munetsuki? No. That, uh, I have a sensei that he always says like that will be kind of like both of you dying, right? You want to, that will be both of you dying, and of course that will be a joke that he says, right? But having that type of mentality, it puts you into that format of I'm just waiting and reacting. Your reaction, your natural reaction should be attack, right? And figuring out being able to have the ability to attack and challenging, because there are more chances for you to actually deflect your opponent's attack by attacking than you lower your shinai and maybe they can hit you. Maybe you do the munetsuki, but then you might lose the point anyways, and it doesn't show that you are being proactive if you're doing for shinza, right? That's something that you want to avoid for. Of course, this is not black and white. There are some exceptions to that rule, but you want to always push in for a technique. Richie, it will be great. I'm gonna translate into English for a second for everybody, but feel free to speak in Spanish if it's better for you. Okay. It will be great if I could share some tips or guidance for some techniques like Ojiwasa for preparation for tests from EQ, and then that will help a lot. So as a matter of fact, I had one of the members ask recently about testing for Yodan. So I'm putting together a video about it, and in the next stream I'm about to do, the member stream, I am going to talk about some of my tips for that. So I will be sharing some things for testing as well. But of course, yes, duly noted, and I will work on that. And of course, Ojiwasa, it's very good topic to have, so I'll work on that. My issue, or what I'm struggling with, is being able to present it without the ability of showing that from the dojo, right? So because I don't have somebody to record the videos with, and I cannot record the practices, I cannot like pick a moment for my own practice. So maybe I can use videos, like from Shiai and stuff like that to kind of show the final result, but break down the way to do it by myself, like on my own. So okay, I'll give it some thought and I'll put some work into it. Okay. Um, and Joseph, thank you very much for saying hi. Thank you for passing by. I appreciate it. Okay, guys. So yeah, that was a little bit my rant. Cyprus, how was training in Japan? How's training in Japan been? Um, amazing, amazing. It's tough in the sense of want to feel like one thing that us as Westerners or people from outside of Japan struggle the most with somebody else. It's seeing how somebody else, even when they're not in such good shape as you are, being able to do things in such a relaxed and easy way. So I I still even struggle with this when I'm doing intense practices. When I'm doing like a lot of, there's a practice that I go to that they love to finish practice with 100 cuts of kirikaeshi. And I kid you not, I mean, like, there's people there that I'm not trying to show off or anything like that, but I know that I'm in better physical condition than they are, yet I struggle so much more than they do when they do this type of training. Um, and I know it's not necessarily because of my condition, it's because I'm not doing things as well as they are. They have much more, uh, what's it called? Uh, it's inside of them, is in their way of doing already, internalize how to do a lot of different type of motions that allows them to be effective, have good impact, have good speed, but at the same time not waste energy. And that's something that little by little I've been figuring out, but it can get frustrating sometimes, right? But the main part is never give up and just keep going and just keep practicing and don't compare yourself with anybody else. But great, great, great practices. Louis, what's my opinion about the Shiai that is more and more and more about speed nowadays? It's against everything we've been told. Bending left knees, hit the Tekubi alone, and many more. Man, I'm going to say that that's a little bit of also misinterpretation on things, though. Like, I can go either way, right? I can tell you that Kendo is not a sport, um, but I can tell you at the same time that a lot of Kendoka here are very athletic. But when you go to the dojo and you see how they practice at the dojo, you can see how correct they are. And it's kind of what I was saying a little bit earlier on Shiai, that when you practice properly at Shiai, compromising your form, compromising your body and stuff like that, um, kind of comes out. It can come out on a Shiai, but that's not your goal, right? And this is very easy to see. Now the problem that I feel that we have is people watching the type of competition, the type of athletic kendo that you can see on a regular basis in tournaments in Japan, for example, and trying to copy that without really understanding what's happening, where that's coming from. Because, for example, you mentioned about the bending of the knee. You see in athletic, I'm gonna call it athletic kendo. Okay, this is a completely made up term. I just made it up right now, so please don't shoot me for like coming up with this type of things. But you see the bent knee a lot in Shiais in Japan, right? But what I this is completely observation. I could be 100% wrong. This is just my opinion, right? What I notice a lot of times when people are trying to copy it from outside of Japan, or even like middle school or high school students here in Japan too, they're trying to copy that look of kind of like the speedy look and that speedy moment. But when you isolate that in a Shiai, in a professional Shiai, you start noticing that that happens more and more as the person is getting closer, right? And it's and I'm not saying it's correct, but it might be a way to start creating pressure using the right leg and leaving the back left leg anchor, right? But you start seeing that people start copying that at any time during the Shiai. So even when they start Kamae right from after Sonkyo, they immediately go into that position, and that is not correct. So unfortunately, Kendo has been heavily guarded in Japan, and for some reason, a lot of times we end up uh, interpreting and relying on our own opinion and interpretation of our kendo. And I've done it before. I copy many things, and I have a lot of bad habits from these things that I tried to copy before I understood them, right? So that's why I always try to avoid sharing this type of things here in this channel, because I don't want you guys to do the same mistakes that I did. Um, but um, when you get to see the way that kendo is done here and get to practice with people at like a high levels, you start seeing that the way they do kendo is just different. It's just different. And I wouldn't say that what's it called, kendo, that the Shiai kendo is bad. I feel that Shiai, it's necessary for kendo to keep evolving and to keep progressing, but at the same time we also have to have our own responsibilities on doing proper kendo during practices, and promoting proper kendo. That makes sense. Let me know. The efficiency paradox. They're more efficient, but can't stay in shape. Man, like, they can't stay in shape. And the funny thing, man, is the amount of alcohol that people drink after practices. Like, it's crazy. I don't know how. I don't know how they do it, dude. Like, I cannot catch up. Like, my tolerance is high, but then the next day, if I go, like, I'm gonna attend a gashiku on October, and I'm already thinking that it's gonna be 3 days, and I'm sure that those 3 days after each practice is going to be some heavy drinking, and I'm just like already like thinking about what excuses can I give so I don't have to, because I don't know how, like, I don't know how they do it. I don't know how to do it. Like, maybe that's the secret though. Maybe that's the secret. Anyways, um Joseph, no, you're welcome. You're welcome here, and you can ask anything, and that I can share. I'll be happy to. You've been advised. You're being a little bit rough in Tayatari. pushing with your hands, especially moving back to attempt hikiwasa. Any advice? We saw very good. Okay, I'm extending this a little bit, so I'm sorry for the people from the members stream. We saw a very. Hold on, let me just play this real quick from one of the first streams, I think it was. So there's one thing that I also want to say about hikiwasa is that pushing. Sorry. Pushing is okay, but you have to know how to push. A lot of times, and I don't know, I cannot say specifically for you because I haven't seen you how you do tayataria, how you do um, hikiwasa, but pushing to get out of the way, it's okay. The one thing that you don't want to do is pushing and lean in. Okay, and as a matter of fact, we saw another point today that Hiki was done without even pushing, just relaxing in. So if you're depending every time to do the pushing, it can be exhausting. It can be too much. Uh, what you want to do is being able to not necessarily push the person, but push yourself away from the person. Okay? Instead of leaning in to push, you want to keep your body straight, and when you push, it's like you're helping yourself to go back. And of course, you can this don't use this as a clutch to always get an opening. Normally, when I get pushed, is normally to also get a reaction. But 99% of the times when I get hit, I say get hit because other people are much better at hikiwasa than I am. 99% of the times when I get hit is not because I got pushed, it's more because that person was able to be so chill that it just made me feel like, I could go to sleep at that moment, nothing's gonna happen. And of course, it's a trick, it's a trap. So don't fall for it and try to run your repertoire when it comes to how to do hikiwasa. And a big point of that is the footwork. So if you notice here on this case, he's going back before he's going back with the left leg before hitting that kaeshido, I mean the gyakudo. But in another one that we saw today, instead of going back with the left leg, the guy actually went back with the right leg and did the fumikomi to go back. So diversity, diversity, diversity. If you're doing always the same thing too, you can fall prey to that habit and people can take advantage of that. So I hope that helps and I hope that makes sense. Uh, yeah. So say thank you for the answer. Then you think we can keep it separate, sporty kendo and budo kendo? So I don't think it have to be separated though. So for example, Shiai, the reason why I feel that Shiai is so important is because it allows you to face somebody that you know they're doing everything possible to beat you. In Jigeko, especially nowadays in Jigeko, I'm not trying to beat my opponent. I'm trying to control my opponent. And for that, you have to do a lot of sacrifices. You're gonna get hit a lot. You're gonna look dumb a lot. But the goal is different. But if I go to Shiai, I want to use those tools that I'm learning during my practice, but at the same time, I want to also challenge my opponent. I want to be prepared for everything, and it's kind of like you want to change that mindset. It's not so important for me to control my opponent. Of course, I want to, but if I cannot, I also let that go, right? And your testing is about showing all those higher elements of kendo and how you know internalize them and apply them into practice. So I'm feeling, I'm not gonna say that I feel secure that I'm going to pass my Rokudan, but I feel that I'm progressing not because I'm doing better kendo, but also because I'm noticing a lot of more things that are happening or not happening in conversations in Jigeko. And I'm understanding, okay, I couldn't get control at this moment, and I'm understanding why I couldn't get control. Hope that makes sense. Man, today's stream has been very fun, guys. Thank you very much for being active in the chat. Um, so okay, setting kendo nippon, but maybe should be leaning more towards the budo kendo. So okay, so again, I think also, I think also there is kind of like a level of adaptation that we have to have because, for example, um, I'm 40 guys. So if I am doing kendo like I was 15, 16, 17, if I when I go practice with somebody that's like that, if I try to go like that, most likely I'll get hurt. Most likely I'll get exhausted and I cannot perform, right? Um and the way I can practice of that is because I believe is because I'm trying to also practice good kendo, right? But at the same time, I know that for kids and for younger people, they want to compete. They want to just be active and they want to just do cool stuff, and that's okay. And for example, one of the dojos that I like to visit sometimes, they're a very traditional type of dojo, and it kind of has that Buddha mentality. But um, to be honest, everyone there, everyone there, I cannot compare them to the people that I practice with on my regular dojo because it's just although they're following a more traditional format and a more traditional um, way of uh, kendo, when I stand in front of them, I don't get the same feeling that I get from the people that I'm telling you that they're just very active and very they're not athletic. They're much older than I am, but the just the feeling alone is completely different. So I don't know what this like Budo part of it. And sorry that kind of sound a little bit like bad if I say it like that. I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but I still haven't figured out. Better would say I haven't figured out what is that part of the Budo that goes there. Because for example, as I was saying, like Kendo, Japanese, they're all very tied to Japanese culture. Um, and you might have noticed, you might have seen in TV shows, videos, whatever, that a lot of times that when Japanese people do things, they have that approach, right? That they work everything to just make it perfect, type of thing. That could be that Buddha approach, and having this experience and seeing how different people approach it has been very interesting. And in this dojo specifically, seeing how people um, they just do kendo. I don't know how better else to do it. They just go and do it, and they're all working in one thing. They're all working in um, just being better, but they have no problem doing like uh, I'm not gonna say trickery, but like they're doing any funny movement, trying to control you in different ways. They're not worry about experimenting. And this format is completely non-traditional. As people just show up, sonkyo, and then just do whatever you want, type of thing. Of course, there's a structure too, but it's kind of like there's a lot of freedom on that. It's not so everything is understood, I guess. So I hope that makes sense. Okay, now I'm rambling, so I'm gonna move on. Um, Luis, thank you very much for this. Thank you for your kind words, Luis. I appreciate you very much. Um, if you come to Osaka, as a matter of fact, guys, now that I have a few people here, if anybody's coming for April, because I know the what's it called, the Enbu Taikai, it's approaching on April. So if anybody's coming in, I have a few senses that are participating there, so I'll go there. And if you guys are coming to Japan at some point, let me know. Maybe I can organize something. Maybe I'll put that on the Discord server. So if anybody would like to join. Um, Luis, you said you would like to join the next live stream. Thank you. Enjoy work, and I'll be posting the stream schedules on the Discord as well. Okay, Richie, it's in terms of Hikiwasa, you personally think that the trick of the secret is use the momentum of the first attack. to get into the right distance to a technique without using so much force in the hands. That is also a good approach, and as a matter of fact, that's one of the biggest things that they were promoting when they were putting the new COVID rules. Kind of like that immediate attack of Hikiwasa. But don't forget to build repertoire. Guys, I feel like I extended this a lot and I've been leaving behind the people from the member stream. So right after this one, I am going to do, um, like I'm logging into my next stream here in just a few minutes. If you would like to join that, I will share the link here in a second. Let me just put that here 1 second. I really appreciate everybody coming here today. I'll try to do this same time, maybe same day next week. I think it will be a uh, good format to kind of keep following. Okay, and I will put in the stream. I'll put in the chat the the next stream. Okay, here it is, guys. You can join it there. Also, if you would like to join the Discord server, um, you can do so in the link that's about to pop up. One more thing, guys. Now that I started posting that I'm going to be doing this streams, Ash also reached out to me. We did a stream about Nito, so I'm hopeful that we can do that sometime soon. So please stay tuned for that. And also, I was thinking asking my Japanese teacher, see if we could do a live stream together, sharing some Japanese terms and kind of getting ready for like some dojo Japanese type of thing. I will appreciate if you guys have some type of ideas for that to share with me, because I would love to do that. She's great, amazing teacher. So I'm sure that if we prepare something that we want to ask her on some of the things about Kendo and Japanese, we can have a really nice stream for that. Okay, so anyways, guys, thank you very much for being here. Really appreciate it. I'll catch you guys on the next stream, and take care. Please have good practices and let me know if I can help you with anything, okay? Take care, guys. Bye-bye.